Right friends, welcome back to English vocabulary and comprehension discussion. This is 25th session and today's subject is welcome mergers in telecom space. This is 25th February Economic Times editorial, and tomorrow we are going to deliberate on yesterday's live mint article. This is India stares at a future without jobs. So, jobless growth, we are going to deliberate on this tomorrow, and today the discussion is welcome mergers in the telecom space. And here you see there are several mergers taking place. Reliance Communications, in fact Aircel merged some time ago, and now there are discussions going on between Telenor and Airtel, and there is news report that Telenor is going to be merged with Airtel. And Idea and Vodafone merger, these discussions are also taking place. At present around 10 telecom players are there, and in future most probably they may become around 5 or so. So, Airtel, Reliance Jio, Reliance Communications, Vodafone, BSNL, these 5 are most likely to remain. And mergers we have discussed last week. Merger means two separate entities combining to create a new organization. Sometimes acquisition is also used. Normally acquisition means small organization is taken over by big organization. If Amazon takes over small e-commerce players, you can say acquisition, and sometimes takeover word is also used. So, these are the words, please do not forget. And mergers and acquisitions, nowadays this is put together and is called mergers and acquisitions. So, we discussed about amalgamation also, when company A, company B merges to form altogether a new company C, this is known as amalgamation. So, these words please do not forget, and let us come back to the original paragraph. Mergers in the telecom space are welcome after the initial pain. Just what the Prime Minister is telling, after the initial pain there will be long term gains for the country after demonetization. So, similarly the present article, or you can say editorial, says after the initial pain telcos will gain too, telecom companies will gain in the long run, though there may be pain in the initial stages. Vodafone in India is merging with Idea Cellular. So, Vodafone Idea Cellular merger, then Bharti is acquiring Telenor's loss making operations in India. So, Bharti is acquiring Telenor, then Reliance Infocom has merged with Aircel and MTS. So, Aircel and MTS merged with Reliance Infocom, and it is also in talks to bring Tata Teleservices into its embrace, right. So, this paragraph is about various mergers and acquisitions. Finally, what is the meaning of embrace? Embrace means the word has got meaning when it is something done enthusiastically. Embrace means accepting something enthusiastically. Please do not forget, if something is done with enthusiastic tendency, then that is known as embrace. Please look into the example. The Indian textile sector should embrace modern technology so as to get a global competitive advantage. So, embrace has got the meaning of accepting something. This word is very important, enthusiastically, with interest. If something is accepted, then only you have to say embrace, right. Look into the next paragraph. Indian telecom is consolidating at a rapid pace. Consolidation, when the industry is growing, now it is the stage of consolidation of digital payment companies. Paytm may acquire small companies, similarly MobiKwik may acquire small companies. So, consolidation means this is two or more companies coming together. Two or more companies or organizations coming together is a consolidation, and consolidation of digital payment companies is inevitable. Consolidation of digital payment companies is inevitable. The meaning is the companies will come together, bigger one will acquire the smaller one, and the consolidation will take place normally at the appropriate time in particular industry, and now it is the time for consolidation of telecom players, right. So, here Indian Telecom is consolidating at a rapid pace thanks to the disruptive entry of Reliance Jio. What is the meaning of disruptive entry? Disruptive means which disturbs normal thing. If normal thing is disturbed, till the entry of Reliance Jio, telecom industry is going at normal pace as usual pace, but Reliance Jio altogether jolted the telecom industry, you can say. So, disruptive means it has got the meaning of when something usual is disrupted. So, when something is stopped or disturbed from continuing as usual. I gave one example, the entry of Reliance Jio acted as a disruptive force in the Indian telecom sector. So, this acted as a disruptive force in the Indian telecom sector, right. So, disruptive means when something is disturbed. Prior to the entry of Reliance Jio, other telecom companies are doing or going ahead with their operations in a normal way, normal pace, but once Reliance Jio entered the space, then totally altogether the dynamics have changed. That is the meaning. So, disruptive entry of Reliance Jio, which fancies itself as a digital empire in the making rather than as a telecom company. Reliance Jio is saying that it is digital empire. It is not a telecom company. You have to view Reliance Jio as a digital empire rather than telecom company as stated by Reliance Jio. Reliance Jio fancies itself. Fancy has got several meanings. Please look into this. Fancy, fancy means imagine or think that something is so. Now, Reliance Jio is fancying itself as a digital empire. Remaining telecom companies like Airtel as well as Idea, they are thinking that they are telecom companies, but Reliance Jio says that we are a digital empire. So, fancy means imagine or think that something is so. So, here I have given one example. Our politicians fancy themselves as the saviors of eliminating poverty from our country. So, our politicians fancy themselves as the saviors of eliminating poverty from our country. Another meaning of fancy, it is if someone feels that he or she is very attractive or important, then also you can use fancy. Radhika really fancies herself. She feels that she is very important, isn't it so? This is one example. So, fancy is used when something is more important, when somebody feels that he is more important, and when someone thinks so. Now, Reliance Jio thinks that it is digital empire rather than telecom industry, right. So, which fancies itself as a digital empire in the making rather than as a telecom company, and is thus, he is telling, and because of which it prepared to offer voice services for free and data services at an ultra low rate to facilitate all kinds of digital commerce. Ultra means extreme, ultra low means extremely low rate, right. So, here the crux of the paragraph is digital, this Reliance Jio feels that it is itself is a digital empire rather than telecom company. So, treating it as a digital empire, it is offering extremely low rates for data, right, and offering voice services for free, right. So, this is the essence of this paragraph, and if you look at Rather than, we have already seen, rather than means indicating preference, or you can say instead of, and ultra means extremely. There are several ultra conservative religious groups in Saudi Arabia. Ultra conservative, extremely conservative, right? Look into the next paragraph. Disruption is bad. Now we are talking about disruption because of the entry of Reliance Jio. That's why disruption is bad. He is starting this paragraph, at least in the short run. He is talking about this disruption is bad, at least in the short run. Initially he stated that it will benefit, consolidation will benefit the telecom industry. Now he is talking about a disruption. It is at least bad in the short run for the companies being jolted out of their traditional mold. Previously Idea, then Vodafone, Airtel, they were working traditional way. 300 MB for 156 rupees, 500 MB for 200 rupees, something like that. They are working with the traditional way, but now Reliance Jio came and reduced the data charges drastically, and that jolted the telecom companies. Jolted. What is the meaning of jolting? Jolt. Please look into this. Jolt. You got a phone call at 2 o'clock. Your mobile rang at 2 o'clock. So, I have given one example, please see. The mobile rang at 2 AM and Raju jolted out of deep sleep. Then another example, train driver applied sudden brakes. Then the people were jolted forwards. So, if something to move suddenly, or you can say to cause something to move suddenly, is a jolt, right? Then if you look at another example, it is economy perspective. If you look at economic perspective, the meaning of jolt is unexpected event that makes prices or level of activity suddenly changes. Why he used this jolt word here is, with the entry of Reliance Jio, entire telecom industry is jolted. That means unexpected event. It is unexpected event which resulted in crashing of prices and consumption of more and more data. This is the meaning of jolt here. So, let us go back to the passage. Disruption is bad, at least in the short run, for the companies being jolted out of their traditional mold, but probably good for the consumer and the industry as well. Probably good. In the short run they are feeling the pain, but it is probably good for the consumer and for the industry as well. The consumer's benefit is hardly obscure. What is the meaning of hardly obscure? That means it is clearly evident. Hardly is a negative sense, obscure is negative sense, two negative senses will make the meaning positive. So, the consumer's benefit is crystal clearly evident. Subsequently, you read, tariffs have fallen sharply, calls are free and data has become cheap once you become a subscriber for a nominal fee. Nominal means very small, which is 0 for Jio alone till March, right. So, here please understand this sentence. The consumer's benefit is hardly obscure. That means they are clearly evident. Hardly negative sense, obscure negative sense. Let us look at the meaning of these words, hardly and obscure. If you look at hardly, the meaning is almost not, only just, barely at all. So, here you see the Prime Minister is addressing an election meeting in Balia, let us assume in Uttar Pradesh, and I could hardly hear the Prime Minister as the quality of the loudspeakers is not satisfactory. So, I could not hear, almost I could not hear the speech. So, I could hardly hear means it is a negative sense, please understand. Obscure, what is the meaning of obscure? Obscure is not known to many people. or you can say hidden. So, this is an obscure village in the greater Himalayas. In greater Himalayas, a small village is there. It is hidden in the Himalayas. Not many people know about it. Under those circumstances only obscure is to be used. So, not really noticed or hidden or not known to many people. Hardly obscure means it gives positive sense. It is known to everyone. That is the meaning of customer is benefited. It is known to everyone. Hardly obscure meaning is that. Nominal. Nominal, you see, there are two meanings of nominal. I have given one example. The principal is the nominal head, but the real work is done by the vice principal. Under those circumstances, you can say nominal. Here, nominal meaning is for name's sake, but not in fact. For name's sake only he is the principal, but the total power is enjoyed by vice principal. And in the economy, nominal means very small or smaller than the usual amount. For industrialization with global competitiveness, governments should have proactive policies of allotment of land at nominal prices. Land is the problem. So, if governments want industrialization for global competitiveness, governments should have proactive policies of allotment of land at nominal prices. So, nominal has got two meanings, please understand, and look at the next paragraph. But this would prove transient if the service providers, he is adding if, these would prove transient, these benefit to the customers would prove transient, that means would prove short lived, will be there for short time. Transient meaning is short lived or is there for short time. So, but this would prove transient if the service providers did not reorganize their business to make these low tariffs viable. These low tariffs should become financially viable, they should be profitable. So, as to make these low tariffs viable, they have to reorganize their business. Otherwise, these low tariffs will become short-lived, transient. Please understand this meaning. Transient means which lasts for only a short time. If something lasts for only short time, then you have to use transient. It is only temporary. So, if Reliance Jio do not reorganize their business to get profits, then this will turn out to be transient. Transient means which lasts only for a short time. Mumbai has a large transient population, right. So, I explained you in detail. So, here, but this would prove short lived if the service providers did not reorganize their business to make these low tariffs viable. The ongoing consolidation in the sector is a part of that organization restructuring. So, in the previous sentence he is told that if the service providers did not organize their businesses or reorganize their businesses, these low tariffs will be short lived. So, that is the reason why consolidation is taking place in the telecom sector. So, this consolidation is a part of that organizational restructuring. Consolidation, as I have already explained you, two or more companies or organizations coming together, that process is known as consolidation, right. Look at the paragraph. Larger subscriber bases, especially those in underserved areas, rural areas you can say, larger subscriber bases, additional information he is explaining, especially those in underserved areas would allow margins to grow thinner without the company turning sick. What is the meaning of company turning sick? Company turning sick is going into losses. So, larger subscriber base in rural areas or underserved areas will allow the telecom companies to grow thinner. They will come out of the red and they will be into profits, or you can say their margins will be on the positive side. That is the meaning. Would allow margins to grow thinner without the company turning sick. Then shared resources of the merging companies would allow cost saving, and the proposed mergers mean resources will be shared. That means when two companies are merging, they will have access to more and more telecom spectrum. At the same time, they will have access to more and more telecom towers. So, because of all these things, what will happen? Then cost saving will be there, and some of the employees may also be laid off, right. So, larger pools of spectrum will allow operators to finally optimize the network. Why this larger pools of spectrum? Larger pools of spectrum means, what is the meaning of larger pools of spectrum? At present, spectrum is available with various telecom companies. Then when telecom companies are merging, what will happen? It will make available more and more spectrum. So, that is the meaning of this. Larger pools of spectrum will allow operators to finally optimize the network. Optimize means using the resources in the most efficient manner so as to get more and more productivity. Using the resources in more and more efficient manner so as to get more output from the less inputs, right. So, here we will allow operators to finally optimize the network in a manner prohibited hitherto. In a manner prohibited hitherto. Prohibited, all of you are clear about prohibited. Prohibited means if something is stopped by law or rules or regulations. Prohibit. Advertisements pertaining to tobacco products are prohibited in visual media. Then hitherto. What is the meaning of hitherto? Hitherto means until now or until a particular time. I gave one example. Ravi presented his paintings, or you can say showcased his paintings in a cultural festival. Please look into this example. Ravi's paintings at the cultural festival have revealed his hitherto unknown talent. He got lot of talent in paintings, but till now it is not known. That is why hitherto is used here. Hitherto means until now or until a particular time. So, this spectrum, sharing of spectrum, or you can say the combined usage of spectrum or operators to finally optimize the network in a manner prohibited hitherto. Till date it was prohibited. That means previously this spectrum sharing was prohibited, but subsequently government allowed. So, larger pools of spectrum will allow operators to finally optimize the network in a manner prohibited hitherto. By the silvers of disparate spectrum they had to make do with. So, disparate spectrum. Disparate means, you can see here disparate is used when two things are different from each other. When the things are different from each other, you have to use the disparate spectrum. All of you are familiar with spectrum. Spectrum means range of radio waves, and these radio waves are regulated by dividing them into various bands. One band should not interfere with other. With that intention, this spectrum is divided into various bands so as to prevent the interference, and that is regulated, right. So, this disparate spectrum, why he used this? Previously, the spectrum obtained by one company cannot be used by other company. So, previously each and every telecom company used to maintain their spectrum separately, independent of other. So, one spectrum cannot be used by other person. That is why it used disparate spectrum. One cannot interfere into other one. In that sense, disparate spectrum was used. So, previously it was the case of disparate spectrum. That means each and every organization has got their own spectrum, no one can else use their spectrum, and some time back rules were liberalized with spectrum sharing, right. So, now spectrum can be shared, and at the same time now because of consolidation more and more spectrum is available for the telecom players. So, please go back to this paragraph, you should understand this clearly. Larger pools of spectrum will allow operators to finally optimize the network in a manner prohibited hitherto. Previously it was prohibited by the silvers of disparate spectrum they had to make do with. So, each and every telecom player previously has to have their own spectrum, and they were not allowed to use one by the other, but subsequently rules were liberalized. Now, larger pools of spectrum will be available because of two reasons, because of spectrum sharing and because of consolidation. So, larger distribution networks will come in handy when telcos fully operationalize their payment banks. So, when payment banks are operationalized, these larger distribution networks will be highly useful. Will come in handy means they will be useful when the telcos fully operationalize their payment banks. Consolidation will create a leaner, more efficient industry. Consolidation means because of the merger of two or more entities, then it will lead to leaner or more efficient industry, right. So, the next paragraph is the Competition Commission of India. Please understand what is the SEBI. SEBI is the regulator which regulates matters pertaining to capital market issues. Some money is to be get through initial public offer or follow on public offer. Some debentures are to be issued, whether it is telecom company or any other company, it does not matter. So, SEBI's role is to look at capital market issues. Competition Commission of India, this role of this organization is to look at whether the trade is fair or not. Here Competition Commission of India is the fair trade regulator. When trade is taking place, it should not be distorted. Entry of Reliance Jio should not crush other telecom companies. If any such problem is there, then this Competition Commission of India is to look after. Then Telecom Regulatory Authority of India is to regulate aspects pertaining to telecom matters. So, the rules are specified. Please understand this paragraph. The Competition Commission of India, rather than the telecom regulator, should oversee the competition in the industry. For overseeing the competition, there is a Competition Commission of India. It is not TRAI, right. So, rather than means it is not TRAI, it is Competition Commission of India should oversee the competition. Oversee means some organization basically which is vested with an activity, you see, to watch or organize a job or an activity to make sure that it is done in a correct way. Overseeing, right. So, as a production manager, his job is to oversee the company's production to the global standards. So, this is the meaning of oversee. So, here the Competition Commission of India, rather than the telecom regulator TRAI, should oversee competition in the industry. There is no contradiction. There is no contradiction between having a sectoral regulator and entities operating in the sector being regulated for a particular purpose by another regulator. So, there should not be any contradiction in this aspect. So, contradiction means the complete opposite of something. Contradiction means complete opposite of something. I gave one example. Raju and Ravi say that they are good friends. Raju and Ravi say that they are good friends, but the contradiction is one does not trust the other. So, here when Raju and Ravi are really good friends, then one should trust the other, but the contradiction is one does not trust the other, right. So, contradiction means which indicates complete opposite sense. So, here when you go back to the passage, here there should not be any contradiction. Why there is no contradiction? Why the passage says there should not be any contradiction? Because of the reason sectoral regulator may be there. Here sectoral regulator is TROI. It does not mean the aspects pertaining to fair trade cannot be looked after by Competition Commission of India. Even though the sectoral regulator is there, the items pertaining to the fair trade or any predatory pricing, they will be looked after by Competition Commission of India only, and any stock market issues will be looked after by SEBI only. So, the meaning, please understand here, there is no contradiction between having a sectoral regulator and entities operating in the sector being regulated for a particular purpose by another regulator. So, for a particular purpose, these can be regulated either by Competition Commission of India or SEBI. For example, just because a company offers telecom services, and thus comes under the regulatory remit of TROI, regulatory purview of TROI, it will not cease to be regulated by the market regulator SEBI when it comes to a public issue. So, here for example, just because a company offers telecom services and thus comes under the regulatory remit of TROI, so it does not cease. That means the meaning of this sentence is, when it comes to capital market issues, SEBI can very well regulate a telecom company. It will not cease. One negative, another negative becomes positive. In English, please understand the meaning of this last sentence is, it can be regulated by market regulator SEBI when it comes to public issue. As I have already told you, when it comes to capital market, SEBI will regulate. When it comes to the issue of predatory pricing, Competition Commission of India will regulate. Whether it is telecom company, whether it is the petrochemical company, whether it is any other company, it does not matter. So, TROI will look at only regulator of telecom services, right. So, here the passage clearly says that the issues concerning various aspects should be regulated, there should not be contradiction, everything is clearly specified. So, here consolidation is inevitable. Along with consolidation, now reorganization should lead to efficiency. Third point is, the telecom companies should expand their services to underserved areas so that they will get into profits. If they do not get into profits, these low tariff for data and no tariff for voice will prove to be short lived. So, all these things are written in the passage, and the crux of the matter is, please reorganize your industry so as to improve efficiency. Otherwise, these low tariff issues would prove to be transient. The meaning of transient is short lived, right friends. Jobless growth we are going to deliberate it tomorrow. This is a live mint article of yesterday, that is 28th February, right. We will close this comprehension ability lecture here. Thank you. Thanks a lot.